smaller domes on each corner. There is also a dome that separates the mihrab ceiling from the Qibla wall. The whole structure is amazing. Each corner is unique on its own. That makes one stand for some time to capture some pictures and search for more information about this great structure with its corners, ceiling, and courtyard. The citadel in which the mosque is located reflects power and sovereignty of that age. On just moving inside the mosque to find out more about this masterpiece. The eastern section is the part that was dedicated to prayer. It is square in shape and each side measuring 41 meters, as it has a roof with a central dome which is 52 meters in height, resting on 4 large arches supported by massive piers. Surrounding the big central dome, there are 4 half domes, while there are 4 more small domes covering the corners. The marble mihrab is covered by a half dome at the lower level. The domes are pointed and covered with medallions and other motifs. The interior dome is impressive because of its size and shape. Which include the names of God and also Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of Allah be upon him. The mosque has two mimbars or pulpits. The original one is larger and made of wood decorated with gilded ornaments, while the smaller one is of marble, as it was gifted to the mosque by King Farouk in 1939 AD. Above the entrance is a grand gallery supported on marble pillars with a stunning bronze balustrade. To the right of the entrance is the white marble tomb of Muhammad Ali, adorned with floral motifs and pointed and gilded inscriptions. Originally, Muhammad Ali was not buried in this mosque. Later, though, during the time of King Abbas I, his body was transferred from Housh al-Basha to the inside of the mosque, where it rests inside the bronze grove. As for the western section, the courtyard or the Sahr, this large open courtyard is about 54 meters in length and 53 meters in width, surrounded by a single archway walk and showcases naves raised on pillars and roofed with small domes. In the middle of the courtyard, there is the octagonal ablution fountain covered by a large lidded domed canopy resting on 8 pillars with natural ornaments. This type of fountain was created for sacred washing during religious ceremonies. beside the dome is another smaller one. In the walls of the courtyard blocks, there are 46 windows, while the eastern wall has 8 windows, and this includes a frieze of an inscription of the Quran. And opposite to the doorway of the prayer house, there is this famous clock that was presented to Muhammad Ali as a present in 1845 by the French King Louis Philippe. At the west and the north corners, there are 2 slender octagonal minarets that rise to 82 meters in height, and they both feature 2 balconies.
One more thing to tell you, that talking about the important places and the beautiful sites here in Egypt, whenever you visit a place, even if you are visiting this place for the 2nd or 3rd time, every time you will visit the place, you will find something new and unique about it. Well, this is the main idea or the secret behind the beauty of Egypt. That was all for now. We'll be back with more about Egypt.
وانت ماشي في الطريق أو قاعد مع صديق، وانت بره مصر أو جوه مصر، وانت في الشغل أو في المكتب، جوه البيت أو بره البيت، ماسبيرو دوت اي جي معاك في كل مكان. بوابة ماسبيرو، إعلام مصر بين إيديك.
dear viewers, it's exactly 3 p.m. here in Cairo time for Panorama News. In the coming 35 minutes or so, we'll be bringing you the latest in the world of politics, business and finance, as well as the exciting world of sports. You'll be joined by myself, Maisi Rabia, and later for the business and sports segments by my dear colleague Niveen Ramzi. And now with a look at the political headlines. President Sisi inspects the largest humanitarian convoy in the new administrative capital. 4 million cases in Germany since pandemic began. And Taliban push deep into Afghanistan's holdout of Panjshir Valley. Welcome back. As part of the celebration of Gates of Charity, President Sisi inspected on Sunday the largest humanitarian convoy directed to the care of 1 million families all over the country. The celebration is organized by the Long Live Egypt Fund along with the Ministry of Social Solidarity in the new administrative capital on the occasion of the World Charity Work Day. Addressing the event, President Sisi thanked all those who contributed to the celebration, saying he appreciates efforts exerted with regards to the Long Live Egypt Fund. He said the fund has participated with the NGOs in reducing the burdens of the needy. He said more development is needed in the fields of health, housing and other fields. As Sisi said, it is important to vaccinate all Egyptians against coronavirus, calling for keeping precautionary measures in place. The convoy reportedly targets 5 million people as part of the social protection intensified efforts and measures taken by the state to improve the living condition of the Egyptian citizens through the coordination between the governmental, non-governmental sectors and the NGOs. Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli attended the celebration. He said Egypt has witnessed throughout history national initiatives in the field of charities, aiming to eradicate poverty, which he said is one of the big challenges facing humanity as a whole. He said the Long Live Egypt Fund is a model for cooperation between state institutions and civil society. He said the Guinness Book of Records has 2 records by the Long Live Egypt Fund in the field of charity. For his part, the head of Masr al-Khair Board of Directors, Dr. Ali Gum'a, said that the Long Live Egypt Fund is a perfect example of cooperation between the state institutions, the private sector, and the civil society. Under the auspices of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, the Arab Labour Conference kicked off on Sunday. The conference is attended by Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli and the Secretary General of the Arab League, Ahmed Abul Gheit. The conference is due to last for a week with the participation of a number of ministers, heads and members of delegations from employees organizations and the labor union of 21 countries, representatives of the Arab and international organizations, in addition to a number of ambassadors. In a recorded speech to the participants, President Sisi said that the challenges that face the Arab nation require more work and cooperation to achieve prosperity and peace. Egypt reported 331 new coronavirus infections, bringing the total number of cases to 289,684 people since the outbreak hit the country in mid-February last year. The Health Ministry said that 10 new deaths were reported over the last 24 hours, bringing the total number of fatalities to 16,776. The ministry added that 439 patients were discharged from hospitals, rising the number of those who have recovered to 241,415 people. The German Disease Control Agency says that more than 4 million people have contracted the coronavirus in the country since the outbreak of the pandemic. The Robert Koch Institute reported 4,005,641 cases on Sunday. The actual number of cases is likely much higher, as many infections go unnoticed. The institute said 92,346 people have died of the COVID-19 in Germany. Top health officials have urged more citizens to get vaccinated. The daily vaccination rate has been dropping for weeks. The British Vaccines Minister Nadeem Zahawi on Sunday said a decision had not yet been taken on whether the healthy children aged 12 to 15 years old should be vaccinated against the COVID-19 following reports that a rollout could begin in the coming days.
Nadim Zahawi on Sunday said a decision had not yet been taken on whether healthy children aged 12 to 15 years old should be vaccinated against COVID-19, following reports that a rollout could begin in the coming days. Britain's Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization (JCVI) on Friday declined to recommend vaccinations for children in that group, taking a precautionary approach due to a rare risk of heart inflammation, but adding the issue was finely balanced. The government is consulting medical advisors to seek advice on wider considerations, such as the impact on schools, and may still give the go-ahead to broad vaccination of the age group. Some newspapers reported confidence among ministers that the chief medical officers would swiftly back shots for healthy 12 to 15-year-olds, but Zahawi said the government would not prejudge the decision. Children are being widely vaccinated already in the United States and many European countries. British officials have emphasized that 12 to 15-year-olds who are vulnerable to COVID-19 are already eligible for vaccination, as well as all people over 16.
The Arab-led coalition intercepted a ballistic missile and armed drones fired at its oil-rich eastern region by Yemen Houthi group on Saturday, and 2 children were injured by the resulting shrapnel. The Houthi movement, which has been at war against the Arab-led coalition in Yemen since 2015, claimed responsibility for the attack, saying it had targeted Saudi oil giant Aramco facilities at Ras Tanura in the city of Dammam with 8 armed drones and a missile. The Houthis also launched attacks on other Aramco facilities in the southern Saudi provinces of Jizan and Najran provinces. The Arab-led military coalition intervened in Yemen after the Houthi ousted the government of President Abdurrabbu Mansour Hadi from power in 2014. 13 Iraqi policemen were killed in Daesh terrorist group attack against a checkpoint in the country's north early on Sunday. The attack in the region of Al-Rashad Armored, which is around 65 kilometers south of Kirkuk city, took place just after midnight. There was no immediate claim of responsibility. Daesh regularly target the Iraqi army and police in northern Iraq, but this attack was one of the most deadly this year. A July 19 bombing claimed by the Daesh terrorist group killed 30 people in the holiest market in Sadr city, a Shiite suburb of Baghdad. Italian Foreign Minister Luigi Di Maio said on Sunday that Italy plans to move its Afghan embassy to Doha in Qatar, the latest indication of the Western diplomats setting up permanently outside of Afghanistan in the wake of the Taliban takeover. The announcement follows earlier signals that Western countries and the European Union, which have closed their missions in Kabul, may use the Gulf state as an offshore hub for their diplomatic relations with Afghanistan.
Italy plans to move its Afghan embassy to Doha in Qatar. The statement was made by Italian Foreign Minister Luigi Di Maio on Sunday. The move is the latest indication of Western diplomats setting up permanently outside Afghanistan in the wake of the Taliban takeover. The announcement follows earlier signals that Western countries and the European Union, which have closed their missions in Kabul, may use the Gulf state as an offshore hub for their diplomatic relations with Afghanistan. Many diplomats flew to the Gulf state, which has hosted the Taliban's political office since 2013, after evacuating the Afghan capital late last month. China, Iran, Pakistan, Russia and Turkey have kept their embassies in the Afghan capital open, increasing their opportunities to directly influence a new government. Sources with the Taliban have said its co-founder Mullah Abdul Ghani Bardar will lead a new Afghan government set to be announced soon.
Taliban have advanced deep into Afghanistan's holdout Panjshir Valley, with opposition forces saying they are keeping the group at bay. Meanwhile, Italian aid agency Emergency, which runs a hospital in Panjshir, said Taliban forces had reached the village of Annaba, where they run a surgical center. Annaba lies some 25 kilometers north inside the 115-kilometer long valley. However, unconfirmed reports suggested the Taliban had seized other areas too. The Panjshir Valley, surrounded by jagged snow-capped peaks offers a natural defensive advantage. Germany's center-left Chancellor candidate Olaf Scholz wants to lead Europe's largest economy in a coalition government with the left-leaning Greens, though polls suggest that they will need support of a third party to reach a stable majority in parliament.
Center-left Chancellor candidate Olaf Scholz wants to lead Europe's largest economy in a coalition government with the left-leaning Greens, though polls suggest he will need support of a third party to reach a stable majority in parliament. Scholz and his Social Democrats SPD have opened up a 5-point lead over Chancellor Angela Merkel's Conservatives ahead of a September 26 national election that promises multiple coalition options and unusually complicated negotiations. The SPD and the Greens both want to hike the national minimum wage to 12 euros per hour from 9.60 euros, increase taxes for the super rich, and accelerate the shift towards renewable energy to meet climate goals. Both also favor closer European integration, with Merkel planning to stand down after the election. The slide of her conservative bloc under their top candidate Armin Laschet marks a remarkable fall after 16 years in office and 4 straight national election victories. In an effort to reboot his flagging campaign, Laschet on Friday presented a diverse team of the future and attacked Scholz for not ruling out a coalition with the far-left Linke Party. Conservatives say such a red-green-red coalition would mean a big lurch away from Germany's centrist mainstream. Scholz dismissed the accusation and distanced himself from the Linke, which he called not fit for government as long as the party did not clearly commit itself to the NATO military alliance, the transatlantic partnership with the United States, and solid public finances.
The U.S. Coast Guard announced that a private dive team will try to locate the source of a suspected oil spill spotted in the Bay Marchand area of the Gulf of Mexico on Sunday after Hurricane Ida wreaked havoc in the region this week. Ida, one of the most powerful hurricanes ever to strike the United States Gulf Coast, hit Louisiana about a week ago before moving northeast and causing intense flooding that killed dozens.
A private dive team will try to locate the source of a suspected oil spill spotted in the Bay Marchand area of the Gulf of Mexico on Sunday, after Hurricane Ida wreaked havoc in the region this week. U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration satellite images showed a miles-long brownish-black slick spreading in coastal waters about 2 miles off Port Fourchon, Louisiana, an oil and gas hub. Ida, one of the most powerful hurricanes ever to strike the U.S. Gulf Coast, made landfall last Sunday in Louisiana, destroying entire communities. A Coastal Guard spokesman said Talos Energy had hired Clean Gulf Associates to respond to the suspected spill and contracted the private dive team to locate the source of the slick. Members of the Coast Guard Marine Safety Unit's Prevention Department and the Gulf Strike Team were currently monitoring reports and now satellite imagery to determine the scope of the discharge. Once the source had been identified, the Coast Guard and partnering agencies would work on a recovery and source control plan. Clean Gulf Associates has put skimmers and a containment boom in the area to mitigate any further environmental impact.
And now we move on to the world of business and finance, and we start with the headlines. Egypt's stock indices retreat. United Arab Emirates rolls out plan to invest in economy, liberalize laws. And silent crisis looms as U.S. to end COVID aid for millions of jobless. Welcome back. Egypt's stock indices retreated on Sunday, the week's first trading day, pressured by selling deals by local companies. The benchmark EGX 30 index was down 1.7. The EGX 70 equal weight index and the broader EGX 100 index also slid about 2.3. The United Arab Emirates announced Sunday a major plan to stimulate its economy and liberalize stringent residency laws for expatriates as the country seeks to overhaul its finances and attract foreign residents and capital. The country's plan to lure foreign talent reflects a growing contrast with the other oil-rich economies of the Persian Gulf that are becoming increasingly protectionist. Abdullah bin Tuq, the Minister of Economy, pledged the Emirate government would pour some $13.6 billion into the economy over the next year. He laid out a raft of investment opportunities for countries to boost development by 10 in the coming years. The largest currency exchange market in the Afghan capital of Kabul reopened after closing for nearly 3 weeks since the Taliban takeover. The reopening day saw a huge turnout of locals inside the market. The exchange rate of US dollars to Afghanis prior to the takeover was at 176. Mir Afghan Safi, head of the currency exchange market, said although commerce and financial systems across Afghanistan have gradually resumed business recently, exchange rates are still fluctuating. Spending less on food, drawing on retirement savings, dropping out of the workforce altogether. Last year, the United States massively expanded unemployment aid as COVID-19 broke out. But in the coming days, those benefits will end, forcing millions of jobless Americans, some of whom haven't worked for the entire pandemic, to make hard choices about how they will get in an economy newly menaced by the Delta variant. The government-funded programs that increased weekly payments and gave aid to the long-term unemployed and freelancers were credited with keeping the United States from an even worse economic collapse last year. In recent months, they have become controversial, with some states ending them early and arguing they encouraged people not to return to jobs that COVID-19 vaccines made safe. Those studies have disputed that contention. From September 6th, they were still nationwide, and while economists don't expect them to meaningfully dent the U.S. economy's recovery from its 2020 obstacle, they'll undoubtedly up the pressure on the unemployed. That wraps up the business and finance, and now we move on to the world of sports, and we start with the headlines. Salah joins Egypt for World Cup qualifier in Gabon. South African Harris ousts Shapovalov for first major fourth round. Verstappen takes pole for Netherlands GP ahead of Hamilton. Welcome back. Egypt superstar Mohamed Salah is to participate with the Pharaohs for their World Cup qualifying match against Gabon on Sunday. The Egyptian Soccer Association said Saturday in a brief statement that Liverpool's Salah has joined the Egyptian team in preparing for the game. Arsenal midfielder Mohamed El-Neni also missed the game against Angola. El-Neni did not travel to Frankville and will miss the game against Gabon because of muscle injury sustained during training Thursday. Brazil hosts Argentina in Sunday's World Cup qualifier. It may not be fair to call it a rematch of the Copa America final from less than 2 months ago. Brazil is missing 9 England-based players who did not travel because of Britain's coronavirus restrictions. Meanwhile, Argentina's star Lionel Messi is slight out after being subjected to a harsh tackle by Venezuela's Adrian Martinez on Thursday, which led to a red card. If Messi can play as expected, Argentina will have a good chance of strengthening its status as the best team in South America after beating Brazil 1-0 in the Copa America final in July in Rio de Janeiro. South African Lloyd Harris reached the fourth round of a Grand Slam for the first time on Saturday with a 6-4, 6-4, 6-4 victory over Canadian world number 110 Denis Shapovalov at the US Open. The 22-year-old Shapovalov, seeded 7th at the hardcourt major this year, came on to Saturday match at the Louis Armstrong Stadium, having lost his only previous meeting against Harris in March. Since that Dubai meeting, the South African 24 has made rapid strides in his career, defeating 20-time Grand Slam champion Rafael Nadal in Washington last month, and has climbed up to a career best ranking for the 46th. Clement Champussin climbed to victory in a penultimate stage of Vuelta a España, while Primoz Roglic finished second place and is on the verge of winning the Grand Tour race a third year in succession. Francis Champussin attacked Roglic leading group with less than 2 kilometers to go on the last 5 categorized climbs that punctuated the 20-22-kilometer route from Saint-Sendo to Castro de Herville. Champussin went on to clinch the first victory in a Grand Tour race, which Roglic crossed the line 6 seconds in arrears, and Adam Yates was a further 2 seconds behind in third place. Dutch driver Max Verstappen sent his orange army of fans into raptures after taking a brilliant pole position for the Netherlands Grand Prix on Sunday. More details.
Max Verstappen edged out championship leader Lewis Hamilton to claim pole position at his home Dutch Grand Prix, his 6th prime grade spot out of the last 7 races, sparking jubilation in the near-capacity crowd. Roared on by a sea of orange, the Belgian-born Dutch driver, who trails Hamilton by 3 points in the title race, succeeds Nelson Piquet, who topped Saturday qualifying in 1985, the last time Formula One visited the iconic Zandvoort circuit nestling in the dunes on the coast west of Amsterdam. Verstappen was just 0.038 seconds quicker than Hamilton, whose Mercedes teammate Valtteri Bottas lines up on the second row alongside Pierre Gasly's AlphaTauri. Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, who had both been so impressive in practice on Friday, hold down the third row. Verstappen, who earlier in the day escaped a grid penalty over an on-track incident on Friday, clocked a quickest lap of 1:08.885. The 7-time champion, who is going for another crack at his 100th career win. Sunday's grid will be missing Kimi Raikkonen after Alfa Romeo's retiring Finn tested positive for COVID-19.
An actress and baker in Moscow is combining bread with art by giving ordinary loaves animated faces. Bread Portrait is a project which came out of lockdown and has become a hit with customers. More details.
If you think this bread is smiling, even winking at you, you may actually be right. Bread with Portraits, or Bread Portrait, is the brainchild of Serafima Krashnikova, a 24-year-old actress from Moscow. It started last year when Russia, along with most of the rest of the world, went into lockdown, and bread baking became a popular isolation hobby. But Krasnikova did not only start to make bread, she decided to merge cooking and art by drawing faces on it. Since then, funny faces on bread tops have become her signature feature. Sometimes people even ask her to portray somebody specific by sending a photograph. The manufacturing process takes 24 hours. The dough is kneaded, formed and placed in the refrigerator for 12 hours for the cold fermentation process. The next day it is taken out and baked in the oven. At first, Krasnikova baked bread in her country house, Dasha, where she lived during the lockdown with her family. There she made at least 150 loaves in the first 6 months, but when the number of orders began to grow, she had to look for a more suitable place. Krasnikova always loved to cook and started making bread out of curiosity. The simplicity of the process was a revelation to her. The final recipes are all her own. There are already 10 options on the menu. The main types are made of wheat, rye, whole grain and spelt. There is bread with turmeric, with paprika, basil and olives, pumpkin, beetroot, malt bread. They all have different tastes and colors.
Dear viewers, that wraps up this edition of Panorama News. We'll be back on top of the hour with more news and updates. For more news, you can follow us on www.nileinternational.net. This is Naveen Ramzi signing off.
بس احنا نبقى دايما مع بعض، دايما كتلة واحدة.
أرجى الناس وأكثر الناس كرامة وكبرياء الصعايدة.
شط اسكندرية يا شط الهوى، رحنا اسكندرية رمانا الهوى، يا دنيا هنية أو ليالي
رضية. بس انتوا صمام الأمان لمصر شعبا.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت سيدنا محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه اللهم المقام المحمود الذي وعدته. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.
لما قلنا بكرة أحلى لا ما كانش كلام أغاني، واما جه بكرة فرحنا ولسه جاية الفرحة تاني، واحنا نقدر علي أكتر مش كلام، أصله طول عمره اللي صدق حلمه مهما الناس قالوله، هو اللي بيعرف يحقق ويعيش جنبه الناس يقولوا شكله يقدر عنده أكتر من الكلام.
انتوا شايفين بنفتتحه ده بقالنا 4 سنين شغالين عليه عشان نتصدى المشكلة زي مشكلة تغذية المدارس بشكل سليم، لكن احنا عايزين نفهم الناس ان في قضايا اكبر من كده كمان، ان احنا يبقى عندنا جيل قوي جدا. انتوا يعني عارفين يعني ايه ان انسان ما ناكلوش كويس وبعدين يكبر ويبقى هو معرض لامراض او لظواهر صحية تشقيه تألمه تحرمه بقية حياته من ممارسة حياة حقيقية. احنا عايزين بلدنا تعيش وعايزين ننظم حياتنا كويس وعايزين نطلع منتج محترم وعايزين نحترم أدمية الناس وعايزين ننظم حياتنا بشكل في توازن في كل شيء، لأن احنا ناس جادين وأمناء وشرفاء وكمان مأمونين على حياة الناس ومستقبلها. ال8 مليار جنيه بتوع التغذية لازم يتدبروا، فهو عطاء متوازن بيننا وبين بعضنا، احنا نعمل وانتوا كمان تساهموا معنا. اسمحوا لي ان انا اشكر الشركة واشكر جهاز الخدمة الوطنية والقوات المسلحة على هذا الاعداد الجيد.
لما قلنا بكرة أحلى لا ما كانش كلام أغاني، واما جه بكرة فرحنا ولسه جاية الفرحة تاني، واحنا نقدر علي أكتر مش كلام.
On Cairo's Nile and in Zamalek, one of the most prestigious districts in Cairo. There we find Aisha Fahmi's palace, or the Arts Center. This palace was built by Ali Pasha Fahmi, one of the senior staff of the palace of King Fuad, and was inherited by his sister Aisha Fahmi. After the Ministry of Culture bought the palace in the 1950s, it was used for many purposes until the year 1986, when it became the Arts Center. The Arts Center in Zamalek has turned into an important center for exhibiting works of art and for participating in many international events, including the International Cairo Biennale, Ceramics Biennale, Drilling Trinale, Youth Salon, and organizing an annual salon for small pieces. In 2010, Aisha Fahmi's palace was announced as an antique building. The Ministry of Culture restored the palace and reopened it in 2017 with a great exhibition that lasted for 3 months under the title of Treasures of Our Museums, which showed international and Egyptian artworks from 11 museums all over Egypt. The halls of the Arts Center are distinguished for their design and color, which, together with the exhibits, create a wonderful piece of art. This painting is a work of the distinguished British artist George Waterhouse. It was painted in 1882 and entitled People on the Ladder. As for the Decamp Alexander Gabriel, who made this painting, he was a French artist called the father of the new artistic movement of Orientalists. He is considered by many of the world's artists to be a pioneer of Orientalism. The walls of the showrooms are warm with the paintings engraved on them that increase the artistic ambiance of the palace. Here we see one of the works of artist Delacroix Eugène, the French artist, who is one of the pioneers of the Romantic school. Also seen in this hall are 2 marble statues of the Italian sculptor Labini Cesar. Here we see a painting entitled Al-Ghaziyya, the Dancer, by artist Bernard Zikendra. Another one by the same artist is called The Woman with a Fan. The Arts Center shows the global art exhibits in the first and second floors of the palace, while Egyptian art pieces are in a separate hall. Here we review together some of the masterpieces of the place. This room is called the billiard room and has not been changed for years. It includes patterned wood intact professionally and harmonious colors of stained glass. The palace in all its corners is a great piece of art. painting is one of the Italian artist Annibale Asconia Melo's works, and it is entitled Al-Sheikh Al-Darwish. In each of the halls of the Arts Center, there is a screen displaying collections of beautiful pieces, shown in the center, including this sculpture of artist Jean Papas. At the entrance of the first floor, we see a great painting of stained glass that extends to the second floor and is one of the distinct architectural features of the palace of Aisha Fahmi. On the second floor is a collection of exhibits, most of which from Mahmoud Khalil's museum, the most important of which is this painting by Claude Monet. Another painting from the museum of Mahmoud Khalil is Singing Lesson by the artist Henri Toulouse-Lautrec. With a tie is the name of this painting by the artist Pierre-Auguste Renoir. Aisha Fahmi's palace contains a hall called the Japanese Room, which was gifted to Aisha Fahmi from the Japanese embassy in Egypt when she showed admiration for the Japanese art. Another aspect of the Arts Center is the Egyptian Hall in the exhibition, which has works of the great sculptor Mahmoud Mukhtar. Another Egyptian artist from the pioneers of the art movement in Egypt is artist Mahmoud Said, whose paintings were brought from his museum in Alexandria. Again, from Alexandria, the brothers Saif and Adham Wanli, who studied in Europe and were influenced by the European schools of art. Distinct Egyptian artists were exhibited, among them artist Enji Aflatun, with her distinctive lines, who is considered one of the pioneers in the early 20th century. Work in the field is one of the artist Raghib Ayad's creations. He is considered one of the most important artists in the art history. The Art Center in the exhibition tried to show works both in graphic art and sculpture of different generations. Visiting this palace is a magical journey through the history of art in Egypt and the whole world.
شارع شارع عنوان عنوان. سلم على مصر واحد واحد بالاسم كمان. سلم على مصر شارع شارع عنوان عنوان. سلم على مصر واحد واحد بالاسم كمان. مصر العشرية المضيافة وجودها في الدنيا إضافة، هي الحكايات المتشافة اللي بقالها زمان.
سلم على مصر شارع شارع عنوان عنوان. سلم على مصر واحد واحد بالاسم كمان. مصر العشرية المضيافة وجودها في الدنيا إضافة، هي الحكايات المتشافة اللي بقالها زمان.
سلم على مصر وبلغها إن أنا حنيت لأغاني الست اللي عليها حبيت واتحبيت. سلم على مصر وبلغها إن أنا حنيت لأغاني الست اللي عليها حبيت واتحبيت. مصر اللي أنا روحي تروح ليها وزمان كان ليا حبيب فيها. سلم على ابن النيل الأسمر أبو ضحكة جنان. مصر المحروسة 100 مليون بوسة، 100 مليون وردة على أصحابي وحبايبي هناك على بحري وقبلي. لو رايح قبلي بأمانة توصل سلاماتي للكل معاك. سلم على البلد اللي بتيجي دايما عالبال، فحبيبتي يا مصر بصوت شادية لما بتتقال. وفي وحوية وحويني بنرجع وياها عيال. فانا لك على طول وقت لما حليم غناها لإيمان. على رملة سينا فاكرين ليالينا، للذكرى كاتبين أسامينا على كل مكان. سلم على مصر سلم عنوان عنوان. سلم على مصر واحد واحد بالاسم كمان. سلم على مصر شارع شارع عنوان عنوان. سلم على مصر واحد واحد بالاسم كمان. مصر العشرية المضيافة وجودها في الدنيا إضافة، هي الحكايات المتشافة اللي بقالها زمان. مصر المنصورة تواريخ محفورة، ناس تحمد وتقول مستورة مع كل يدان. خطب الشعراوي صوت الطبلاوي ومواعظ البابا شنودة اللي تحسس بأمان. سلم على بلد السنباطي وطه والعقاد ونجيب وشاهين في حكاية كانت بطلتها سعاد. سيد درويش واحمد شوقي وعبد الوهاب واسامي كتيرة وناس تانية لا يمكن تتعاد. هنا بيت العيلة، هنا لو جت ليلة سيب نفسك تاخدك زحمتها تلاقيك دفيان. سلم على مصر شارع عنوان عنوان. سلم على مصر واحد واحد بالاسم كمان. سلم سلم على مصر شارع شارع عنوان عنوان. سلم على مصر واحد واحد بالاسم كمان. تيجي مرة لمصر تيجي تاني وصية جدي الرحتاني. أقسم نصنا قلبي ما بينهم وما بين لبنان. سلم على مصر سلم على مصر سلم على مصر.
Be the first to know. The news live at the site of the event. Information on events as they are happening. If it's breaking news, it's Nile TV.
Four p.m. here in Cairo, time to have a quick look at the major top stories of the hour. As part of the celebration Gates of Charity, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi inspected on Sunday the largest humanitarian convoy directed to the care of 1 million families all over the country. The celebration is organized by the Long Live Egypt Fund along with the Ministry of Social Solidarity in the new administrative capital on the occasion of the World Charity Work Day. Addressing the event, el-Sisi thanked all those who contributed to the celebration, saying he appreciates efforts exerted with regards to the Long Live Egypt Fund. He said the fund has participated with the NGOs in reducing the burdens of the needy. He said more development is needed in the fields of health, housing, and other fields. El-Sisi said it's important to vaccinate all Egyptians against coronavirus, calling for keeping precautionary measures in place. The convoy reportedly targets 5 million people as part of the social protection intensified efforts and measures taken by the state to improve the living conditions of the Egyptian citizens through the coordination between the governmental, non-governmental sectors and the NGOs. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli attended the celebration. He said Egypt has witnessed throughout history national initiatives in the field of charities aiming to eradicate poverty, which he said is one of the big challenges facing humanity as a whole. He said the Long Live Egypt Fund is a model for cooperation between state institutions and civil society. He said Guinness Book of Records has 2 records by the Long Live Egypt Fund in the field of charity. For his part, head of Masr al-Khair Board of Directors, Dr. Ali Goma also said the Long Live Egypt Fund is a perfect example of cooperation between the state institutions, the private sector, and the civil society. British Vaccines Minister Nadeem Zahawi on Sunday said the decision has not yet been taken on whether healthy children aged 12 to 15 years old should be vaccinated against COVID-19, following reports that a rollout could begin in the coming days. Britain's Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization on Friday declined to recommend vaccinations for children in that group, taking a precautionary approach due to a rare risk of heart inflammation, but adding the issue was finally balanced. The government is consulting medical advisors to seek advice on wider considerations, such as the impact on schools, and may still give the go-ahead to broad vaccination of the age group. The U.S. Coast Guard The U.S. Coast Guard announced that a private dive team will try to locate the source of a suspected oil spill spotted in the Bay Marchand area of the Gulf of Mexico on Sunday after Hurricane Ida wreaked havoc in the region this week. U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration satellite images showed a miles-long brownish-black slick spreading in coastal waters about 2 miles off Port Fourchon, Louisiana, an oil and gas hub. The images appear to show the slick drifting more than a dozen miles eastward along the Gulf Coast. Ida, one of the most powerful hurricanes ever to strike the U.S. Gulf Coast, hit Louisiana about a week ago before moving northeast and causing intense flooding that killed dozens. And that brings us to the end of this edition of the Top Stories. We'll be back on top of the hour with more news and updates. Stay tuned.
بعلم الوصول
وأنني أعلن اليوم انطلاق هذا المشروع الطموح، تنمية الريف المصري حياة كريمة.
مصر في وقت الشدة قادرة تحضن ولادها وتعيد المشاهد بعلم الوصول. احنا في خدمة أهلنا ولاد الأصول، بعلم الوصول. احنا في خدمة أهلنا ولاد الأصول،
مستعينا على تنفيذه بالله وبثقتي في قدرات المصريين دولة وشعبا، فإنني أعتبره تدشينا للجمهورية الجديدة.
مصر دايما لما تنوي قادرة تعمل معجزات. في التاريخ دور تلاقي عنها مكتوبة حكايات، بالعزيمة والإرادة كل يوم في إنجازات. الحكاية في مصر فكر، قالها نبني وقال نعمر، قال بعون الله هنقدر، عمره ما يقول استحالة. قام وسمى الله أكبر، خلى لون الأرض أخضر، جنة سبحان اللي صور. بص شوف بعينك تعالى.
ما تشيلش هم، صدقني انت عندنا تبقى الاهم. المصر اهو ابن البلد دي مصر بالنسبة له ايد واحدة نبني كلنا، همك ده برضه همنا، وده كله فضل وخير كتير من ربنا واخر كرم. وبلدنا دي ما تنساش، في الشدة ما تستناش، حقك تحلم وتكون احسن وتعيش في حياة كريمة، تاكل اللقمة بحلال وتكون حاسس بأمان، ليك ظهر وراك اطمن، ليك احترام وقيمة. احنا في بلد انا وانت فيه عايشين سوا، كملنا بعض، اللي بيقع بيلاقي جنبه اللي يساعده ومعاه يسد. ما تخافش ده انت مش وحيد، بعض مش هنروح بعيد، طول عمره المصري من زمان بيساعد مش مستني رد. وبلدنا دي ما تنساش، في الشدة ما تستناش، حقك تحلم وتكون احسن وتعيش في حياة كريمة، تاكل اللقمة بحلال وتكون حاسس بأمان، ليك ظهر وراك اطمن، ليك احترام وقيمة. وبلدنا دي ما تنساش، في الشدة ما تستناش، حقك تحلم وتكون أحسن وتعيش في حياة كريمة، تاكل اللقمة بحلال وتكون حاسس بأمان، ليك ظهر وراك اطمن، ليك احترام وقيمة. وبلدنا دي ما تنساش، في الشدة ما تستناش، حقك تحلم وتكون أحسن وتعيش في حياة كريمة.
الحياة كريمة هي تعظيم ما لدينا، تكريس الجهود تكسبها.
ليك ظهر وراك اطمن، ليك احترام وقيمة. وبلدنا دي ما تنساش، في الشدة ما تستناش، حقك تحلم وتكون أحسن وتعيش في حياة كريمة.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of our program Cairo Local Time, during which we're going to bring you the latest political, economic, social, also sports and cultural events that are taking place in Egypt. With you today, Aman Mukhtar. I have the pleasure to be with you during the coming hour. This is a short break and I'm going to be back with you. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We start this episode of Cairo Local Time with our local news bulletin. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi inspected this morning the largest humanitarian convoy that is directed to care of 1 million families all over the country. This celebration is organized by the Long Live Egypt Fund along with the Ministry of Social Solidarity in the new administrative capital on the occasion of the World Charity Work Day. Addressing the event, Sisi thanked all those who contributed to the celebration, saying he appreciates efforts that are exerted with regards to the Long Live Egypt Fund. He also said the fund has participated with the NGOs in reducing the burdens of the needy people. He also said that more development is needed in the fields of health, housing and other fields. Al-Sisi also said it is important to vaccinate all Egyptians against coronavirus, calling for keeping precautionary measures in place. The convoy reportedly targets 5 million people as part of the social protection intensified efforts and measures taken by the state in order to improve the living conditions of Egyptians through the coordination between the governmental, non-governmental sectors and also NGOs. Well, to shed more light on this, we have the pleasure to have this phone with Dr. Sherif Gohary, Professor of Architecture and expert in informal settlements, development and urban development. Good afternoon, Dr. Gohary.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Well, Dr. Gohary, could you give us your insight concerning the inspection of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi of inaugurating this humanitarian convoy that is going to help more than 1 million families all over Egypt?
Yes, in fact, this ceremony today for the charity doors ceremony, in fact, it is coming under the cooperation and organization of the United Nations, which in fact it is a day for living charity between the people, getting all the people to help each other in this International Day of Charity. By this situation, in fact, of the staff was in this ceremony to give the support of Tahya Masr, initiation, which is already part of the Egyptian government, to give also to support the charity between the private sector and all people, with the same time with the government, of course, to elevate the proportion of the poor people in Egypt.
Yes. So what are the steps that is going to be taken in order to implement all this project that is established by or inaugurated today by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, how concerning the settlements and the as you are an expert in the urban development?
Okay. In fact, according, of course, to the Central Agency of Public Mobilization and Statistics, in fact, we have about 30 million citizens were living below the poverty line. And this is according to 2019 campus statistics. So, in fact, the President Abdel Fattah Sisi and also the government already initiating what we call decent life initiative for the people living especially in the villages, and where they account about at least 58% of our Egyptian population.
So the decent life, Doctor, the decent life is going to be a kind of coordination between this humanitarian convoy that was launched today by President Abdel Fattah Sisi.
Yes, yeah. It's all these initiations. It is parallel to each other, and it is already in the same flow to, like I said, to the big initiation, which called Decent Life Initiative. This amount of money which we integrated today, it will help about 5 million of these people, and it will help them in initiating some jobs, initiating some activities for these people, to help them to have, of course, because this part of also the initiation of the government to not give money for the people without providing jobs, but at the same time they providing these in the kind like for the villagers, they can provide them with some animals to be as agriculture, land. They can help for improving the quality of life of these people in the part of improving the housing conditions. Also, the part of this initiation, it is also this, making canals, the open canals to make it concrete instead of covered canals which already polluted sometimes. So all these are parts of this initiation for Decent Life Initiative.
So, Dr. Gohary, how do you see the role that is played by the Long Live Egypt Fund in the society?
In fact, of course, the society is trying to help the government in this initiation.
Yes.
But like President Sisi, until now we didn't get this what we supposed to have, which is 100 billion Egyptian pounds. But I think the private sector and all the Egyptian people are trying to help this initiation, and by the development they saw, and also the improving of the quality of life of the Egyptian people. I think this initiation in the coming days and coming future, I think it will be an opportunity for all Egyptians to help their citizens, especially the rich people, the private sector. For that, I think by seeing this initiation, developed already projects going everywhere, and also this media coverage of all these activities. Of course, it convinces the people to pay for and help the government in this initiation.
Yes. So, Dr. Gohary, what is the in the celebration of the international, the World Charity Work Day? What is the role of the community and the society to participate in the gates of charity, in your point of view?
Yes. In fact, the community can already give different things to these charity doors ceremony and this initiation. Of course, it can by the beginning by money, of course, also by effort, like for the young people during these summer holidays or something like that. For that, they can help all these youth people, all of them in each of their background. Like the engineering students can help in the construction field. The people in the media can help in the media coverage or whatever. So we have different options to give charity. Of course, the companies can help by giving money, or they can giving products. Like the construction companies can give maybe a product like ceramic, porcelain, or whatever material they produce. Also, the companies which producing food or something like that, they can help by giving some part of their product. For that, in fact, the discipline for charity is very open and very wide. Whatever support you would like to give, you will find an opportunity. Even if it is only a power or resources. It's not meaning the money, but it can be material, it can be by your input, like I said, for the youth people, it can be by whatever material you have or whatever.
Yes.
Yes.
So, Dr. Gohary, now with the initiative, this launching of this project today, and also the Decent Life that started and it's going to last after 3 years, and it's going to help more than 50 million people. It would change the lives of the citizens in Egypt. How do you feel the change? Do you feel any change that has already happened? Did you see the villages that is under the construction and reconstruction that is included in the program of the Decent Life initiative? It's going to cover the whole governorates in Egypt.
Yes, I think...
Tell me about the change that you already feel.
Yes, in fact, from my point of view, and of course, it is recognized by most of the people. In fact, you can recognize from the beginning of inaugurating this Decent Life initiative by President Sisi until now, each day and each week, you can find the Prime Minister or the ministers or going everywhere, and the governors. They are already distributed themselves around Egypt, and they visit these initiations. They already monitor these initiations. They already helping these initiations. For that, if you have a media coverage from the beginning of this initiative until now, I think most of the people are recognizing the support of the government, the President Sisi's support, and also the Prime Minister, Dr. Madouli. And like I said, it is like really a national project which all the people are helping and are trying to give support for this initiation, because it helps all the Egyptians, and it also recognized by all the people everywhere, and it's monitored by the officials and non-officials and NGOs, and for that it is it's really a real national initiation, and I think hopefully by the end of this initiation, after 3 years, I think all the villagers and all the poor people, I think, will be happy because of this initiation, which really, like I said, well recognized.
Yes. So, Dr. Gohary, today President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was in the new administrative capital, of course, for the celebration of Gates of Charity. And yesterday, Dr. Mustafa Madbouli was also inspecting the projects in the new administrative capital. So, with the President today also visiting the building of the Cairo Opera House, or the headquarters of the new Cairo Opera House that lies in the new administrative capital. Could you give us your insight as an expert in, or a professor of architecture, of the mixing between, of course, the new administrative capital has modern buildings, of course, and modern architecture. How do you see the combination or the mixing between what Egypt already used to have long ago as being, of course, the land of civilization and the land that taught the whole world the architecture? So with the modern buildings that we are witnessing in the new administrative capital, that is also still attracting the whole world, having the largest power, the largest tower in the world, and the largest mosque in the world, and the largest church. And tell me about your insight, please.
Yes. In fact, the administrative capital is a unique project, which also the Egyptian government is concerning for this time and giving all the support to have the new government in this area. And in fact, from the architecture point of view, it is a good opportunity for all the Egyptians to have this international up-to-date architecture in this area, and also looking for what we call the smart cities initiation and approaches, which I think it is the first time to constructed by the government in this administrative capital, to match also what is going on the world. You know, the world now is talking about these smart cities, also about new technologies for infrastructure, for construction, for networking, for helping people by introducing the new technologies. For that, I think the opportunity to demonstrate all these architecture and demonstrate all these technologies in this administrative capital city, I think it is very unique, and I think it will give a lot of advantage for Egypt, especially for the future, when, of course, because the important things that this new administrative capital is not for the administration of the government only, but also the part of its objective is to also investors. At the same time, for that, these investors should, for the new technologies, for the new advanced architecture, for the new advanced people systems, for that it is, they have like double S for these new capital administrative system.
Yes, how would these projects help in job opportunities for Egyptians, and also taking the experience of professor of architectures in Egypt and experts in this field?
In fact, a lot of people already engaging in the project in this new administrative capital city from Egypt and also abroad, which gives, like I said, a big opportunity for Egyptians to show their new experience in this field, and also to have these international experts to show also what's advanced in this area, like the Chinese company, they built this new tower with these new technologies, which of course it is the first time to introduce it in Egypt and in Africa, and on the same time the idea of the government to have, like I said, the smart city technologies for infrastructure, when all the infrastructure of this administrative city, it is already managed by smart technologies, which it is also a new type of infrastructures to be introduced in Egypt. So this experience, I think, like I said, it's unique, and still we have a good opportunity for the other part of the administrative capital, and also these projects which already constructed all over Egypt. For that, this is another opportunity to introduce a new architecture, new ideas, new, like I said, smart ideas, sustainable architecture, which already part, of course, of our historical and civilization in Egypt.
Yes, I thank you very much for your time and for your valuable information. Dr. Sherif Gohary, Professor of Architecture and expert in informal settlements, development and urban development. Thank you very much for joining us. This is a short break, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to be back with you.
قالوا لي في جملة واضحة حط فيها اسم مصر، جاوبت بحسن نية الجملة هي تحيا مصر. قالوا لي ارسم علمها، سرحت وتخيلت قصر،